Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything: geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to you live from New York City, your host, Pierce Redmond.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Porkins Policy Radio. As always, I am your host, Pierce Redmond, and you can find this show here at American Freedom Radio, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, as well as on my website, which is PorkinsPolicyReview.com. And you can also find this on my YouTube channel on iTunes, which is fairly new, so please check out and subscribe. Leave a review on iTunes if that is what you use. You can also find this on the RSS feed, and of course rebroadcast later on Friday nights on a host of other stations from 11 to 1 a.m. So lots of different ways to listen to the show if you are new to the program. My apologies for missing last week's radio show. We had a bit of a snow day here in New York, and I was feeling kind of sick and took an extended snow day from everything, from work and the radio show. And I will say, faithful listeners, dear listeners, I was really bummed out about it. I felt very guilty about not being here with all of you. And then later in the week I freaked out when Ed Opperman was asking me what show he wanted me to replay, and I didn't know, and I wanted it to be a good one. I'm not even sure which one Ed picked, so I'll have to check that out later. But anyway, we are back, and I want to just say quickly a big thank you to some new subscribers on Patreon. So thank you to Kat, Alex, and Ross. Thank you all so much. Of course, if you want to support my work, you can always go to patreon.com/Pierce Redmond, and you can become a subscriber for as little as $1 a month. And of course, if you become a subscriber at the $5 level, you will get access to the bonus podcast. We'll have a new one up either the end of this weekend or the beginning of next week, and that's going to be a really fun one. I think we're going to do a joint subscriber podcast between me and Tom Secker, so it'll be for both of our subscribers. And we're going to be talking about a very bizarre TV movie called Under Siege, which was written by none other than Bob Woodward. And I haven't actually had a chance to watch it yet, but I think it is still on YouTube. It's like type in Under Siege 1986. And it features Iranian terrorists and nukes, and I think they blow up the Capitol or something like that. So lots of really interesting stuff to look out for. And of course, please do support American Freedom Radio, which also has a Patreon. So you can sign up to become a subscriber to American Freedom Radio through Patreon. Of course, you can always give a one-time donation, or you can make it a recurring donation on PayPal. So lots of ways to support me and to support American Freedom Radio. One last quick update, and then I will bring on my guest. I have gotten quite a few emails about the issue of the American Journal of Economics and Sociology that features myself, Tom Secker, Matt Alford, Tarzi, and of course my guest, Aaron Franz, who is joining me today. And I know that people have been asking about it. And I think I've gotten back to everybody, but if I haven't, do let me know. It might take a little bit of time to send out all the issues. It is becoming a little bit more tricky in terms of getting print issues of the journal, but I have been able to get quite a few, so I'm sending those out. I think I'll only really have like a handful left, maybe like 4 or 5. So I'm thinking maybe we could do like a raffle or something kind of fun, like a giveaway for those. But let me know if you really, really want a copy. Let me know, and I can probably figure out some way to get a few more. But anyway, enough of me updating all of the listeners. Today we welcome back my good friend Aaron Franz, who joined us most recently back on episode 67. Where it was Election Day. It was the Spirit Cooking Election Day special. Aaron, of course, is the host of Transresistor Radio. He's the co-host of Themes and Memes, and he is also the co-host of Uncle the Podcast. And Aaron is joining me to discuss his piece in the American Journal of Economics and Sociology, which is entitled Gray Matters on Screen, Intelligence Agencies, Secret Societies, and Hollywood Movies. And we're going to be talking about a bunch more things about the issue and the writing process and a whole mess of other things. But Aaron, thank you so much for coming back on the show. How are you doing?
Real good. Thanks for having me here, Pierce.
Excellent. Well, so maybe we should, I'll just do a little bit of background on the issue, how it came into being, first, and then we'll dive into your piece, Aaron, because I don't think I've spoken about this previously on the radio show. But basically, a while back, this almost maybe like more than a year ago, or 2 years ago almost. It must have been 2 years because I think it was in my old apartment. Tom Secker and I were approached by Clifford Cobb, who is the editor of the American Journal of Economics and Sociology, and which I think we'll just refer to as the Journal from now on because it's too long a title. Yeah. But we were contacted by him because he had listened to our podcast series and he was interested in knowing if we could put together a whole issue around this. And we talked with him. We had some, sort of like Skype meetings with him, and we would talk about different ideas and whatnot. And basically we said, yeah, of course we can, the two of us, we can put together a whole issue. And then we went about finding different writers. And we had, a bunch of really interesting writers that had signed on early, and then they had to drop out. And then Tom and I really kind of dropped the ball a little bit, and we were super behind, and we didn't have the full issue kind of all figured out and negotiated with everybody, and we had to kind of put it off for a little while. But then when we got going again, and Clifford kind of pushed us to make this into the issue that it is today, and we found lots of different writers. Most of them, Tom and I know. There's a bunch of them, the more sort of like, real kind of hardcore academics. So it's like Peter Mantallo, Tanner Mirles, and there's a few others. Those were sort of like recommendations, from a few other colleagues that we knew in the sort of academia world that focus on the CIA in Hollywood. But we did kind of tell Clifford, well, I think this person would be better and this person and that. And we started to, kind of build that up, and then we started actually writing. And Aaron, why don't you give us your kind of perspective? Because I think the listeners are interested in knowing some of the behind the scenes things here, and then we'll dive into your essay. But what was your experience with all of this? Because I think I just sent you like a general email asking if you wanted to be in it, and you instantly said yes. So bring us back to that moment in time. What was it like?
Well, yeah, I'm enjoying your side of the story there too. First contact with Clifford, and you and Tom being the curators of this, and you two did a good job, and that was a lot of work on your end. So yeah, kudos there. You two are the ones that had the most on your plate here. I just had to write one piece. So yeah, that not to discount that's hard enough too, because these are all, everybody wrote a serious essay for the journal here. So everybody came through. And as you said, I just got an email from you saying what the project was. I got that. I was like, oh wow. I was legitimately impressed that this was going on. I was like, oh whoa. I immediately, when you said what it was, I was like, oh man, this is pretty exciting. It's an actual scholarly journal. They got a hold of you. You didn't try to get a hold of them. They came out to you, and the project just seemed to come together, and that was real exciting. And I wanted to come through and help you guys in filling out the issue, if nothing else.
Yeah. No, and for people that may not be aware, it is a serious, it's a peer-reviewed journal with a very, it's rated, and it's in libraries and universities and things like that. And it's a real, it's not like, I don't know. It wasn't like a magazine article or something.
I want to know how many YouTube subscribers they have. That is, right. That's how I judge the value of social commentary. Okay, so it doesn't have close to 1 million followers on YouTube. I'm not interested.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Then I'm not really, Yeah, how many likes on Facebook does the journal have? I don't even know if they have a Facebook. But
yeah. I was wondering. I didn't look that up. I should have.
I don't think so. Clifford never really struck me as the kind of Facebook sort of a guy. In all of my various phone calls and emails with Clifford. And I'll say again, back on the sort of like behind the scenes stuff. Well, first off, there's the whole. It's an academic journal, so you have to kind of write in a specific way. And there's a lot of kind of, explaining that needs to, you really need to like present your argument and then back it up. And it can be kind of, it's an interesting writing style because it's kind of like a slow burn. You sort of start, with this sort of general idea and then slowly kind of work it out. So that was really interesting and kind of challenging. Just figuring out how to write like that. But I'll say also, behind the scenes wrangling all of these writers, that had to be probably on par or, as stressful as the actual writing of everything. And Aaron, you were actually, well, and you were actually better than most. I didn't really have to. I think we only had like a few kind of email exchanges back and forth, and I think you had your stuff in on time, or early even. Other people, it was, myself included too, it was difficult. You gotta convince certain people to come on, and then of course you have all of these writers. We had like 3 writers that dropped out. And they were all people that we, some people I knew fairly well, some people I, was sort of acquaintances with, and it was all really kind of hardcore personal stuff, that was going on. It wasn't, I don't care. But that was, traumatic, cause, I was carrying around like, a little notebook that I always carry with me and I, just jot down notes and whatever. I had the like list of like, okay, these are all the writers that I think, 7 is good. If I can just get 8 and then, convince them, then, I'll be okay. And then Clifford can find 2. And then we have like 3 writers drop out. And, it was like the floor kind of falling out from underneath me. But it was really fun too. It was also fun kind of like, coaxing people into doing, into writing and convincing. Cause it's funny cause I'm sure, if Tom was here, he would be telling you, how much I was like freaking out every 5 minutes of it. And for about, I don't know, this must have been 3 or 4 weeks running, on Tuesdays, before I do the radio show, I see my therapist and all we did was talk about the article. I would say my therapist really knows that article better than most people at this point. And it was funny because, I was always freaking out, but then I would get these emails from other people in the project and they would be freaking out and I had to like walk them off a ledge. So that was a really kind of and it was fun. It was very much, it felt like this sort of wonderful little like community, all of us sort of in it together. And, when we all really wanted, I think we were all so anxious and worried about it because we really wanted these to be like perfect. You don't get that many chances to write, pieces as interesting as all of the pieces in this journal for an academic journal. And, on top of it, we were getting paid too. So, you kind of have to, if you're getting paid, you damn well better give a pretty good product in return. Aaron, how was the writing process for you? Was it something, your piece deals with, secret societies, it deals with the occult, it deals with, movies like The Recruit, which we did a whole episode on for, the CIA in Hollywood. So it was sort of familiar ground for you, but what was it like? What was the writing process like?
similar to what you were describing there. The whole time it's just hoping that it would be good enough, and holding myself up to that high standard. And I mean, even now I worry like, oh man, I hope it came out good enough, like I hope that I made my case, and that I was, writing coherently and I was making points, I was referencing enough. Because especially with the topic that I was writing about, it's about these obscure sort of things that don't allow you to prove them as such, if you know what I mean. Like with occult matters, it's not always about like proving it with facts. However, I did have to do that. You have to do that to make your case. You have to like lay out, okay, here's, there are these groups, the Rosicrucians, and this is who they are, the Freemasons. This is them. Okay, we see they're real. And then you go on to say what it is they do, and like, well, they do these things, and you need to present evidence for that. And then you do get to draw conclusions, and everybody does in everything that they write. And I think that's a big misnomer just in general, that people think that they can be purely objective, but that's another thing. But I was just hoping that it came out well. I think that it came out good enough. This was, as you're saying, this was tough. It was a tough process. It was hard. It's like, it makes you wonder, like, oh, should I do this? Am I up to it?
Yeah. I was constantly like, this is a piece of shit. Like, why? I'm so in over my head.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I did. I was like, oh man, it's, is it up to par? But at the same time, this is a big honor too, and this is like a huge feather in the cap. Getting published.
Definitely, yeah. Yes. So, I mean, there were pages and pages of my notebook that I just like ripped up. I had crazy sections that I thought were just the fucking best thing I'd ever written. And then, I would get notes from Clifford, and it was like, you got to take that out. Like, there's no way you can't. It's not that it's bad. It doesn't fit in here.
Yes.
There's early in my piece, there's like a small sort of line where I talk about the CIA being involved in abstract expressionism. And it's just like one or two lines with the citation to the Saunders book. And I did a show on that recently. But I wrote like maybe 8 pages on that. Like it was like another chapter. Like I could have written a whole article just on that. And I really loved it. That's why I ended up doing the episode. But and it was like painful. I had to just take it all out, and definitely the constant. But I think your piece definitely lives up to the quality of the journal. I think all the pieces are fantastic. And it's an interesting smattering of pieces as well. And like you said too, I mean, from pieces that are fairly kind of like straightforward like mine, but I think we all have a very strong opinion in what we were writing. Certainly if you read Tarzi's piece, I mean, he does not hold back, about how he feels, which I think is what makes his piece so, strong. And just so wonderful to read. And as with mine too, I mean, that's the most fun when you're writing, is when you're kind of like, not yelling, but, telling people exactly, like,
tell them how it is.
Yeah, that's always when I think I'm writing my best, or I'm writing my most persuasively, and, really having fun with it. But Aaron, let's dive a little bit into, your piece, because, as some people will know, it is, in order to actually get to read these pieces, it is a little tricky. Wiley, which is the publisher that actually owns all of our writing, they're not the most like easygoing of publishing companies, and it's a little tricky to get access to it. If you do want to, I think the best way is to actually, if you go and follow the links in the show notes. And you can, for $30, you get, full online access for a year. So you'll actually, that's the cheapest way to view the article. And that way you'll get like 5 issues. I don't know how many people are going to be all that interested, but I will say the American Journal of Economics and Sociology is not like your run-of-the-mill academic journal. they are as alternative as you can get for an act. I mean, they put all of us in an issue, so they're not. That
says a lot.
Yeah, they're not like too stuffy. So there's that way. There are some other ways of getting access to it. It's just a little kind of like you got to do a little bit of digging and stuff. But so anyway, Aaron, why don't you explain a little bit about your essay for those who may be having trouble getting their hands on it? What is your essay about exactly?
Well, this is funny because ever since, this goes back to the writing process, but ever since I wrote it, I've tried to distance myself from it a bit, like, oh man, I wrote it, there it is, you know.
Oh no, tell me about it. I mean, anytime someone asks me about that, I'm like, just read it, you know? Like,
yeah, just read it. But I mean, that aside, the topics I wrote about are also the stuff I love, the things I love to talk about. So I'm certainly glad to hear. Familiar territory, intelligence agencies, Hollywood, the influence over intelligence agencies over Hollywood, and the similarity of intelligence agencies to secret societies. So that's really how the article starts, is saying listing a bunch of similarities between secret societies and intelligence agencies. So that's how it starts out. It's like, okay, we've got this, they do that. Cryptography is one of the more mundane or one of the more objective things that they do. It's like, cryptography is a thing that secret societies have done, and in fact, I would argue that cryptography really came out of the occult tradition. I mean, that's where it's from originally. That's what the history of cryptography is. And then in modern times, you have not secret societies, but the intelligence agencies, they specialize in that. There's specialists in cryptography, and there's all sorts of different forms of cryptography today, but that really stemmed out of things in the occult sphere. You look, even artwork, like alchemical artwork, is just loaded with ciphers, cryptography of all kinds, pictograms, that sort of thing. So the similarities between those two groups is really, that's like the big part of what the article is, how something like the CIA is definitely a secret society.
Yeah, by its very nature, and any intelligence service is to a degree. When you look at just the mere fact that you're dealing in secrets and hidden knowledge, and that there are levels within that you're never aware of. Yeah. They certainly. But it's funny that you're talking about the cryptology, because I hadn't. I think a lot of people out there who I don't know are kind of like hip to all of this would assume, oh yeah, of course, of course it's a secret society because they're all, skull and bones and, weird sort of, things like that. But the cryptography part of it is really kind of a fascinating, like that to me almost felt very much more kind of tangible. That this really, they really were kind of harnessing the power of these, of the occult or something like that.
Oh, yeah. What's interesting with cryptography is that the history of secret societies has actually been written to a great extent, but it's been done cryptically. It's been written in all sorts of different things, but it's all like hidden in ciphers. And Manly P. Hall writes quite a bit about this. I write about this in the article. So if you were able to decode all of the secret messages that have actually been written down and drawn and things like that, you'd have a pretty extensive history on secret societies. But we're unable to do that, so we don't understand where secret societies have come from, what they've done. And I would argue that the same thing is happening with intelligence agencies today, is they're actually telling you what they're doing all the time, but they do it through ciphers, and they're all tricky about it. They're hiding things in plain sight, hidden in plain view.
Well, and the whole section of your essay talking about that they are in fact telling you what they're doing much of the time through Hollywood, through motion pictures, through movies. And you, of course, you focus on The Recruit, which is a shockingly revealing portrait of the CIA and of the fact that they are obsessed with magic with a K, and the occult and secrets and lies and truth and reality and manipulation and all these things. And oddly enough, it is sort of hidden behind the mask of, well, it's a Hollywood film, you know. They're not really telling you, it's all make believe. And of course, and so much of the recruit specifically is like, I don't know, like poking fun at that whole idea. And of course, the recruit is written by our good friend Chase Brandon, the first head of the entertainment liaison office. And Aaron, did you actually read Brandon's book? I did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I referenced it because I mentioned the what is the name of Kryptos?
Kryptos game or something?
It's in the CIA headquarters, I think in the old headquarters.
Oh,
building.
Yes. It's
a sculpture that was built there. And I think it's called Kryptos, if I remember correctly. But it's basically this sculpture, water garden sort of thing that has this intricately encoded message in it that nobody at the CIA has ever cracked. It's like a little game that they have that they try to crack it, but nobody actually has. And that tells you something if the folks that are hanging around at the CIA aren't able to crack this thing. It's pretty difficult, you know what I mean?
I think to date only the sculptor knows the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's an interesting story there too. And the sculptor's like, yes, if anybody encodes the message, that message itself has like hidden meaning. It's encoded itself. So once you've decoded that, there's like some sort of riddle in the actual thing he's written. So, that's how art works. Art, hides truth, but it also puts it out there for you to see too. So it works in the same way. It's an occult thing that they're doing when you create art or when you're, doing intelligence. But yeah, I didn't read Brandon's book. I think luckily that I didn't read because it's horrible review.
Yeah. I think so we're referencing the Kryptos Conundrum, which is a novel by Chase Brandon. I think it's his only one, or he might have another one. No, I think that's it. But it also, at some point, there's like aliens pop up and Roswell and Chase Brandon is very much into that. And pushes that, that he's seen the video evidence that there's aliens at Roswell and stuff.
Coast to coast with that, right?
Oh, yeah. He was on Coast to Coast like all the time. Talking about it. He's quoted in all these things. He's like the reputable source. Like, aliens are real.
Insider. Yeah.
But in that book, I think Chase Brandon is referencing the Kryptos.
Yes, the sculpture. Yeah, the very title of the book references that sculpture at the CIA headquarters. So that's where he got the title of the book, was from that sculpture. And he even says that in the description of the book. So I just found that interesting that he took that sculpture and based a book off it, and he went way off into fantasy town. But, it's a novel. You can do that. Doesn't matter if it's good or not, but you can do it. But that sculpture is very important in making the point that cryptography is something close to intelligence work, something very important when it comes to intelligence work, but also that art employs ciphers too, and different things from cryptography. There's a lot you can do with hiding things in pictures, and we're dealing with moving pictures here. We're talking about movies. It's just a moving picture. So yeah, of course there's hidden messages in movies, and just artists do this all the time. Just because like metaphor can be said to be just one level of this. And when you do metaphor, that's what you're doing. You're cryptically saying things without explicitly saying them. So it's just an artistic technique, but it's something that groups like the CIA, intelligence agencies, take to a whole other level. They're the experts at this, and it makes sense that they would be interested in making movies because, as I said, metaphor is just a cipher. So when the CIA gets involved on a movie, I'm wondering, well, how loaded down with hidden messages is this movie going to be? Lo and behold, it's got tons of them. I mean, just goes without
absolutely. No, and when I was reading your piece last night, and again, it just sort of reminded me, I had sort of forgotten about the Kryptos sculpture, but beyond it being this, puzzle, it is a piece of art. And then I was on the CIA's website, after I read your article, and they actually have this like fabulous art collection that's just sort of rotates around, the different walls and lobbies and things of the CIA headquarters. And again, they were, they're very influential in the abstract expressionist movement, in art in general, music and all these sorts of various different art forms. And so, it is no sort of a surprise that they're involved in Hollywood. But again, too, going more so in the level of, the sort of like power of art to persuade people covertly. I don't know, Aaron, you've talked about the sort of, the world stage, and like the power of, I guess of like sort of like live theater and things, but I think it translates very much with movies as well. This is something that you didn't necessarily quite, talk about in your piece, but do you think, this sounds sort of hokey, but like with these sort of movies, I think we talked about this with the, when we did the episode, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. But do you think like they really are sort of like, I don't know, like imbuing these movies with some sort of like rituals and things like that? Because at times it really does seem like this is going, again, this is more than just making movies. If it was just about making movies, they wouldn't be so secretive about it. If this was just about making movies, they would tell us what movies they were involved in. Do you think there's something more to this when they're involved in some of these films, especially when you hear some of the sort of strange stories surrounding some of the movies they've been involved with? I know that's like a really kind of strange, open-ended question.
No, it's good. It's a good question. I love that sort of thing. The quick answer would be yes, I do think so. Definitely. And to get into this question deeper, I think it deserves to be to think about what ritual is. There's so many different aspects of what a ritual is and what a ritual can be. Everybody pretty much has rituals in their daily routine. You wake up, you have 2 pieces of toast, drink a coffee. You go to work the same way, you turn this way, you make sure you do this or that when you park and that sort of thing. All that stuff is ritualistic. So that's like the mundane side of ritual. And we say as much. We'll say like, oh yeah, I do my morning ritual. But we won't think about what it means to have a ritual, like what sort of meaning that gives to our lives. It's unfortunate that we're not thinking twice about things. But I would argue that the CIA and the sorts of people that are involved in it, and especially the people that are really deeply involved in, like the kind of like, I guess, sharper knives in the drawer there, definitely are the sorts of people that do think twice about things, You watch those the extras on the DVD of The Recruit of Chase Brandon talking. He says like that's the sort of person they're looking for. The people that can, see the gray areas in life and understand that things aren't all like hard and fast all the time. So he's telling you like, look, people who are actually, aware of things and who stop and think of things, that's what intelligence work is about. And there's an interesting, similarity between intelligence agencies and, secret societies that I don't think I listed in my piece, but that's there's this practice in secret societies in the occult of they're basically like memory exercises. So like at the end of your day, you will go back and remember every single thing you did. Like you will remind yourself what you did. So that hones your awareness so that you actually remember, so you're not just sleepwalking through the day. It's like, oh yeah, I had that coffee and I put 1 creamer in. I usually put 2, but I put 1, didn't I? That was interesting. You know, just remembering mundane stuff like that is actually something that initiates in the secret societies do, is to hone their awareness. So being aware of things around you, that's a big skill in tradecraft, right? You got to take note of every single thing that's in a room. You got to be able to read the room, right? And like know that there's read people, all that stuff. So it's about being acutely aware. So you asked a pretty open-ended question. I kind of give a rambling open answer.
No, that's okay. Well, that's what I get, you know. But no, I guess I just, again, your piece brings up so many kind of fascinating little, you know, like truths about how the intelligence services operate. And again, and it's like almost sort of in one of those sort of, you can't really like prove it, you know what I mean? These are bigger, almost like philosophical questions that you can't really like pinpoint and say, well, you know, in this document and that, such and such. But there is so much, again, the more you kind of like familiarize yourself with all of this, you do begin to see these sort of startling patterns emerging more and more. Mm-hmm. You know, again too, I mean, there must be more to, you know, if it was just a movie, if it was just an intelligence agency, it wouldn't be, you know, they wouldn't be going through all these sort of strange hoops and whatnot. So lots of really fascinating questions. And again, too, the whole question of like the CIA sort of love of art or the use of art, really comes up again, in your piece throughout. That was something that kept kind of like going through my mind. And there's all these like other weird little like, have you ever heard of there's like the fallen angel, statue or sculpture at CIA headquarters? Have you heard of this?
No, I have not. I need to see that.
I don't know where exactly, I'm trying to remember exactly where it is, in the, building. I think it's in like one of the, you know, I don't know, like main lobbies or something like that. But yeah, it's like there is this, it's like this weird sort of like, I don't even know if you actually see the angel, but it's like the angel's, I don't know, cloth or something, you know, it's like robe. It's sort of draped down and it's like hanging. And then underneath it, there's like an eagle that looks sort of like angry but almost sort of cartoonish. And then there's some strange, you know, little message written down, or insignia. And it's like to those who, you know, died in preserving, you know, in secret or something like that, preserving, you know, the wonders of democracy or some shit like that. Yeah. It's like the strangest little, and it's just sort of like there, you know, like off to some, you know, it's not large, it's small. Like I'm sure.
Smaller piece, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people just walk right past it. But it does seem like the CIA has it sort of like all over. Again, I mean, there's this like, they do seem to be kind of like, I don't know, gaining something from all of that. Just really kind of bizarre, and apparently the things like that kind of sprinkled all over, the CIA.
Yeah. Well, they're a government institution, so they can get art, first of all. You know, I mean, getting a hold of pieces of art to put in their lobby isn't all that difficult. So they got that going for them, first of all.
Yes.
But yeah, there's definitely meaning in every single thing that they put in their headquarters. And it has an occult effect, I would say. And again, it's about hiding things in plain sight. It's their message to you, if you have eyes to see, right, and your ears to hear.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, this is what we're about, you see? And if you're smart enough, you're able to interpret art. You know, we're interested, if you're an intellectual, you can understand this. If you're not, you know, that's fine too. Just watch your movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and I'll tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all you need to know. But yeah, that fallen angel thing, man, that sounds crazy. There's just so many, the whole Lucifer thing and the fall, there's just so much symbolism to do with that. that is complex and it's fascinating. I mean, just the fall in terms of like the season, the fall, but then the whole fall of Adam, the fall of man, original sin. But every single person has fallen too. You know, we fall in our lives when we do something wrong, get back up. Then the eagle is the symbol of Scorpio oftentimes, and again, Scorpio happens when was it the when the equinox comes in and the actual fall of the sun, things start dying, you know, so death, all that. And so it's just loaded. You could talk about that all day and you wouldn't even start to get close to what it actually means anyway.
Well, I just pulled it up on the CIA headquarters. It says, and this is just from them, the sculpture symbolizes the concepts of unity, giving, trust, globalization, and loss. The fabric drape is representative of a global matrix of people working together like the threads that make up fabric. The laurel, a symbol of commemoration, is knotted because the knot is a symbol of unity, solidarity, and trust. The knot further conveys the shared mission in the struggle for freedom. The etched map of the world signifies the global reach of the shared effort. The draping of the fabric can be seen as a veil, a symbol of silence, grief, and loss. The eagle is a symbol of vigilance. And,
let's not forget that the veil hides things too.
Yeah,
right?
no, well, and so underneath that, there's the inscription is, in honor of those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the silent, secret struggle for freedom. Which is, just sort of an odd way of, like, saying it. And, again, too, they seem to, publicly, this is all the stuff that they have up on their website, these pieces of art, it's all about freedom and democracy and the great sort of triumph. And, of course, that's, like, all bullshit. I mean, anybody with a cursory understanding of this organization knows that it's not really about any of that. You know, what
they've got the laurel in there indicating like peace, they're striving towards world peace and all this.
Yeah,
their
exactly.
methods are
unity and trust. I mean, I couldn't think of a less trustworthy organization on the face of the earth. But again, too, I mean, that very occult in all of that this is the overt meaning, for the uninitiated masses. And of course, I'm sure there are CIA guys that walk past that sculpture and they know exactly what's really going on at this place.
Yeah. Well, within any given organization, you'll always have this structure of like understanding. And that's exactly how a secret society is set up. You get degrees of understanding as you work your way toward. You understand more and more with each degree you go in. And so the guys on the outside, and they're in there into CIA, doing just more mundane jobs there. They're the flag saluting types that, would strangle you if you, say something bad about the United States. Just like, like they'll just like lose it. The conservative sort of person probably, and, I'm sure it's just loaded down with people at the low level. That's who they recruit for that, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But you go higher and higher, then you get more people that understand like, well, to bring peace and democracy to the world, we had to do a couple things. Sure, we lie. We break laws internationally and nationally for that matter. But, it's good. It's good because of our overarching goals. They're pure. It's the American way, and we're upholding capitalism and industry and all this. And I'm sure that even at all levels they believe that. But the guys at the higher levels understand, the real game. Like, we say all these things, and we do mean them, but we also mean business, and don't mess with us because we are scary, and that's that basically.
No, and here we go, the obligatory fire truck. I don't think there's a single goddamn show I've done where there isn't a fire truck in the background.
I like it. I like the truck.
Okay, good.
No, I'm serious. I always enjoy the fire truck because, at the beginning you have your intro, record live in New York City, and it's like, this is New York City.
Right, yeah, no, it's always a fire truck or a cop car or something.
Yeah, I like
well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you. I bet you like it because I think maybe the the first interview we ever did where maybe it was the second one. We were discussing your book. There was that like car that like it sounded like it was revving in your living room or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's why I was living on Long Beach.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There was somebody outside. It was a car or a motorcycle or something. It was so loud.
So yeah, he really wanted you to know that he had a new car.
That's right. The Ferrari going down the street. It would not have been a Ferrari driving down that street in Long Beach, but something loud. I don't know. Whenever it's loud and not too expensive.
Well, I had something that I was going to add to what you were just saying, and now of course it's the fire truck has sort of knocked it out of my.
We were talking about the guys who are at the top and they really know the deal.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Oh, there we go. Well, yeah, and as you get up higher and higher, and that was just sort of reminding me again of the people will hear, a lot of people will say. They'll just say CIA. They don't say, like they'll say like, oh, I work for CIA. They don't say I work for the CIA. And that's like a very sort of like agency, way of speaking. And in the movie The Good Shepherd, which is a, very heavily CIA sponsored film that was basic, people who don't know, that's Robert De Niro's sort of, I don't know, like swan song to the CIA that he made for them. And in that there is a part, I can't remember who the character is who says it, but he's, sort of fairly high up. I think he's sort of like a Richard Helms type character. And Matt Damon's character, I believe, is the one that has, why do we always say, CIA? We don't say the. And he says something to the effect of, because do you put the in front of God? Which is like a real kind of like, whoa.
Yeah,
and again, one of those sort of moments, and it is like, yeah, that is sort of, that to me is sort of representative of the true nature of this organization. And again, like when you really start kind of peeling this all back and that has so many connotations of they work for God, they are God. They are God. Yeah, exactly. They work for a God-like organization. It just sort of brings up all these sort of, but I was just sort of thinking about that before when you were talking.
Well, it ties into the fallen angel thing again, because that's what some of the occult meaning there of Lucifer is, the fallen angel. It's talking about man, because the fall of Lucifer and the fall of Adam are the same thing. It means just like the fall of the spirit into this physical realm. And the embodiment of spirit in this physical realm is man. So man, and the creative man with his intellect and his magical ability to change the world around him, right? Original sin, no, I don't like the Garden of Eden, I want to change it, right? That is God. That's like the occult version of God is man who's self-actualized himself and starts taking upon himself to change the world. And that fits in the whole Luciferian idea.
I was going to say Lucifer is Lightbringer and Prometheus and, Prometheus' whole deal sort of, I guess, it's a similar thing. I mean, acting like a god.
Yeah.
And that's why he's sort of cast down, from all of that. But yeah, no, it is like it's all right there in front of you. Again, your essay really kind of nails that down to people. It is there for you to see. You just need to open your eyes to it.
I guess I'll mention real quick that I make the point that both secret societies and intelligence agencies are religious in nature. So I make that point in the article too, and I point to the inscription on the wall that Alan Dulles had put there. Now I'm struggling to think what it is. Like, oh, you shall know the truth,
and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. From John 8:32. There
you go. Yep. Bible verse. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and he was like adamant that be there. I think when he like cut the ribbon for the original headquarters building, OHB, he opened with that phrase as well, or that verse. I mean, I think we'll cover this more in the second hour. But I mean, there's so much there. Again, too, you wouldn't. That's like that weird sort of blending between government or authority and religion that we see all over Washington, despite the fact that no, we're not. We're free and secular, and all religions are welcome here. Yet, everywhere, in God we trust. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just so many different, anything. Why the heck? God bless America. The president's got to say that every time he gives a speech. I mean, who gives a shit?
Yeah. The whole separation of church and state is a lot of nonsense. But you got to understand the occult esoteric religion that underpins the whole thing, and that's present in everywhere. I mean, the big government buildings in D.C. are basically temples. They're built the same way.
Yeah, they're all Greek and Roman temples.
Yeah.
And adorned with gods and goddesses.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So it's obvious what's going on. Like, this is a religious thing that's going on. But yeah, the idea of separation of church and state. I mean, it's true in that they don't want to favor this religion or that religion. I think is what they're going for. There is like, we're not a Christian nation, we're not a Muslim nation, we're a Freemasonic.
Yeah, well, of course.
And Freemasonry has open arms to any and all religions, because it understands that all those religions are just offshoots of the more esoteric religion that they're all seeded from. That's the esoteric truth, is that there's only one true religion. That term "true religion" you hear a lot of times. It references the religion that secret societies worship. It's all basically the same thing. And even with secret societies, you got different ones of those, and like varying, just little differences between them. But in generally speaking, it's all branched out of the same base, the same core, you can say. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And of course, the fact that this Bible verse is all about the truth, and the truth will say, I mean, this is ironic, of all places, it's at the CIA. But, I think there might also be some, I think Alan Dulles was not being quite so tongue-in-cheek. I think he's being very literal in that, and it is sort of like, because, there's something, you need to understand you need to respect the truth. Yeah. If you're going to become, initiated into it. And I think that's more so, like, it's not this sort of, I think you can read that quote and sort of think of it as this sort of, very, wonderful thing. But it's kind of scary. Like, you're about to learn the truth. Like, when you step foot, when you cross that seal on the floor, and you see that quote, you're stepping into a very serious world. And I don't know, maybe you don't want to be free.
The truth hurts, right?
Yeah, and anybody, of course you bring that up in your piece. You have you ask the question, if we do not know the truth, then who is it that will set us free? Yeah. Even more questions. So, Aaron, before we go to the break, anything on that, or what I've been talking about?
Sure. Well, with that Bible verse in Dulles, I mean, how adamant he was in putting that there, it shows who he is. I mean, he is a true believer.
Yeah.
And again, he may be a guy who's like pretty deep on the inside and has a real good understanding of what's going on. But when it comes down to it, he has religious conviction in what he's doing and what the CIA does. And I have no doubt that he was totally committed and it's like, yeah, this is the right thing to do, what we're doing. And so those guys believe that. And it is a religion. They believe it they have faith. It's true. It's truly faith, what they have. I'll leave it at that.
We're coming up on the break. We'll be back in a few short moments with Aaron Franz, and we're going to be talking more about the CIA, about truth, Alan Dulles, the Bible, and much more.
American.
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom.
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
And I hope people support American Freedom Radio. And I hope people vote with their dollars and really understand the value of having American Freedom Radio. Because that's my family. If you love me at all, Jack Blood, support American Freedom Radio. Like, my family has literally disowned me. American Freedom Radio, Danny and Don and those guys, those are my actual family. So please support these guys, because they have all the technology, they have all these great things that they're going to do, but obviously they can't do it all by themselves. So not only would I like to see you support them, I'd like to see you retweet them and repost them and really get involved and get on the bandwagon, so to speak, on doing that do-it-yourself promotion, because they're a do-it-yourself radio network, and we just need that so much.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. HempUSA.org introduces 3 brand new detox formulations of micro plant powder. Brain Fuel for depression, bipolar disorders, and stress. Total Care, anti-cancer agent that cleans the liver and organs and increases memory. Rejuvenate, invigorates and heals the body, mind, and spirit. These products are your alternative to pharmaceuticals. Call 888-910-4367 and like us on Facebook. We ship worldwide. Only at HempUSA.org.
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to American Freedom Radio.
What about show business? Show business, completely dishonest, corrupt, and full of shit, but in a nice way. Plenty of expensive drugs and perverted sex. If you're going to be full of shit, might as well enjoy your work. Then you have the media. Not just the news media, let's include them all. The media are almost literally exploding with bullshit because they're located right at the crossroads of all the other bullshit. The media are made up of equal parts advertising, politics, business, public relations, and show business. These people are sitting right at bullshit junction. There's enough bullshit in the media for Texas to open a branch office. And you still have enough left over to start 2 law firms and a Christian bookstore.
What has American Freedom Radio ever done for us?
Provide us with free education?
Well, that's obviously effective, but apart from reversing the dumbing down of America...
All the information they provide is free?
What about the free podium for broadcast activists to speak from, man?
Exploiting commonplace corruption?
They help vulnerable people who don't have a voice?
Bringing light to important information nobody else does.
Or they never censor, hang up, or cut off their guests? Well, that's no fun, is it?
Oh, they created a fantastic alternative media source during an era of bad, manipulative, and infiltrated mainstream and alternative media shows and scum.
Okay, well, apart from the free education, free information, free podium for broadcast activists to speak from, exposing commonplace corruption, helping vulnerable people without a voice, bringing light to important information nobody else does, and creating a fantastic commercial-free alternative media source in a sea of bad, manipulative mainstream and alternative media shills and scum, what has American Freedom Radio ever done for us?
Donate to American Freedom Radio today.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio. Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything. Geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to to you live from New York City. Your host, Pierce Redmond.
It would probably work if I turned on my microphone. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Porkins Policy Radio. I am your host, Pierce Redmond. You are listening here at American Freedom Radio. If you are just tuning in right now, we have been joined in the first hour and in the second hour by our good friend Aaron Franz, of course, from the ageoftransitions.com, Transresistor Radio, Themes and Memes, and Uncle the Podcast, which people should definitely go and check out. It is Aaron's comedy podcast that he does with his Uncle John, and it's an excellent show.
Yeah, actually, Uncle wants to get you on, Pierce. He asked me when I told him today. He's like, "Yeah, you gotta make sure you ask him to come on."
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Tell him I'm ready anytime. Yeah. I know I've been a little just sort of all over the place, but I will definitely make time to be on the show. So let Uncle know I'm ready.
We'll do. Yeah, we'll have fun with that.
And again, people, go and check it out, especially, in this time when everything is super serious and horrific. You and Uncle always have a fun time. And I think your show is probably the one of the few podcasts that I've been most, engaged with as a fan. In that, you and Uncle John do beer reviews, and you also did some O'Doul's reviews, and I did send you guys a few pictures of me drinking some O'Doul's one night, and I don't do that with the most podcasts that I listen to.
That was much appreciated, that social media interaction there. That's what we strive for, audience engagement. So thank you very much on that.
No problem. And I don't have Instagram. And I never will get an Instagram, but I do check the Uncle the Podcast Instagram, pretty frequently.
Cool.
So, excellent stuff. But, let's get serious, Aaron. Cause we were talking about the truth and the truth setting us free. Of course, John 8:32, the Bible verse, that is, adorns one of the walls, at the CIA, original headquarters building. And we were sort of beginning to kind of parse that out and talk about that in a much larger sense. And this is something that we were sort of emailing back and forth, figuring out what we wanted to talk about. And you had kind of brought up this whole idea of the truth, because there's this everybody is kind of obsessed with the truth, quote unquote, whatever that may be, and with telling everybody, well, this is really the factual thing. That's fake, but this is the real deal and whatnot. And before we kind of dive into all of that, I did just, quickly kind of want to touch on, the fact that not only is this Bible verse, but it's also from the Gospel of John, which is interesting in that, John always, he's of all the Gospels, he's the most sort of kind of out there, maybe is one way of putting it, but he's the most sort of doctrinaire, he's the most hardcore, and John is the one that sort of is, Jesus wasn't Jewish, we can't it's Christian, we're all Christians now, and John, or rather the people that were writing the Gospel of John, at the time, they were also the ones that kind of stamped out a lot of the more sort of esoteric, gospel, the Gnostic Gospels, the, Gospel of Thomas, the whole issue of doubting Thomas, that version of the Apostle Thomas only appears in John's Gospel, and that's most likely only in order to discredit the people that were writing the Gospel of Thomas, because they were writing, in a very sort of decentralized version of Christianity, where it's really about finding the God within you, and not about, a sort of patriarchal organization, very top down with money and a pope and all that kind of nonsense. So it's just interesting again that they picked John to adorn the wall at the CIA. And Aaron, I don't know anything on that in particular.
Yeah, well, getting into the history of Christianity and the ties to the Gnostic Christian sects that were around during the formation of the official Catholic Church there. And that's a fascinating history of which I want to read more of that myself, because I've read bits and pieces of it, but that's definitely worthy subject to read up about for sure. And absolutely, the secret societies are involved in there, and even down to this present day, there's this like rivalry between these Gnostic sects and the establishment Christian religion, definitely the Roman Catholic Church. So that's a real thing. And you know, when you get into conspiracy, sometimes you like to wrap everything on together. There's just like this one group at the very top, and you know, any sort of perceived separation isn't real. But there are real separations, and there's even secret societies that quarrel with each other about, you know, what should be done, and they're doing different things and they're opposed to one another. So that's just fascinating too. And I'm always doing my best to try to understand that, but there's so much you can do too, because I'm on the outside looking in, as they say. You know, I'm not a member of a secret society. I'm just reading all the stuff that I can to understand the occult world and secret societies and what they're up to. And so I'll be the first one to say that, you know, I'm speculating on a lot of things, and I'm just, you know, like making educated guesses. But I'd also say that many other people are doing the same thing and pretending that they're giving you objective truth. And I think that is the most objectionable thing happening. And that's probably actually, it's covert and it's unseen, but it's one of the biggest problems in society today, as far as I'm concerned, is people just blabbering away, acting like they know it all, pretending to be preaching truth as if it's gospel, as if you can even do that, like you were saying there. And people believing it, and people are saying, yeah, I finally found the truth. This guy is saying it. That's just it's horrible, and the effect of that is almost immeasurable. What's happened to us today without seeing this going on.
Well, and this is, I guess this has always sort of existed. You know, there've always been people that feel the need to tell you the quote objective truth, which is really just opinion. You know, I mean, for the most part. I mean, obviously, there's always like a little bit of truth to, you know, I think in a lot of times, you know, there's always a little bit of truth to whatever people are saying, even when it's mostly BS. But they really are just sort of taking like bits and pieces and formulating their opinions around it and presenting this. And this has become like amplified. This is like times 10 or 100 in the past year or so. And I don't know. I mean, I saw this like over and over and over again with the like Pizzagate fanatics, where and they still do this, but like, you know, if you search like the, you know, like hashtag Pizzagate, it's 1,000 tweets from people all saying Pizzagate is real. It's true. This is true. You know, this is all real. This is the truth. And that's all they're saying, you know, and it's like and you can tell they're like typing and yelling at the same time, you know, down wherever the fuck they are, mother's basement or something. Yeah. Or probably like at work, you know, thinking that everyone around them is a secret Pizzagate pedo that's going to out them any minute, or whatever. But it's funny that's, and of course, you know, they'll in between them screaming that it's true, they'll link to some, you know, bogus Reddit thread or something, or whatever. They might even link to something that's like real enough or tangible, something that you can kind of point to. But it's funny that this need, this desire, this like, it's almost like a knee-jerk thing that you have to say, this is true. Okay, like, believe me, it's true. I'm telling you, this is all factual.
Yeah, the other 999 people said the same thing, so it has to be true.
Yeah,
right?
and that's something that I really haven't seen, like, in any other, I haven't seen that, even with other conspiracy people. ufologists aren't screaming, it's true, and they might write long books about it and go on crazy radio shows. But I mean, even that is like more true. I mean, there are things that are flying around in the sky that are unexplained. But I don't know.
But the thing with a UFO is that it's still unidentified, right? I mean, it's when you start getting into like the details of like, yes, it's a gray alien named Carl, and he comes from this planet Zeno tomorrow.
Right.
And he's doing this and he's doing that, and you build up this whole mythos, which is just utter BS, and you present that as if it's objective truth. I mean, you can take one thing, which is, you can have evidence for UFOs. Like here, like we saw this UFO, it's a thing. Right. But then once you start drawing the conclusions, that's where you get in trouble. And there's all sorts of that. And I don't even think it's wrong to do this. I mean, this is what we do. I mean, we have certain facts and figures we can go off of as people. We can see how the world works around us. We can tell that if we water a plant, it grows. That's pretty objective. You put water on a plant, it grows. And then if it's a vegetable, you can eat it. And then, you gain these or that nutrients. We able to test the plant and be able to tell it has these nutrients, and the body breaks it down this way. So those are all, you can gather data. But from that data, even when it's scientific in nature, the experiments, the conclusions are always going to have a subjective tinge to them. And again, I don't think that's wrong. That's not bad that that's the case. It's just our understanding of that. We're not understanding that to be the case. We're not understanding that even science and technology has huge subjective bias, and all the while we're just sitting here pretending that it doesn't. See, that's like this huge problem in the world. This has been going on for, if not decades, if not hundreds of years, decades, certainly. And it's kind of culminated now. We've got all these social media sites, and I feel as if they're designed to elicit debate, but it elicits debate in which, people will always remain on their own side, and you can't really go any further than two people just yelling at each other, and nothing's gained from it. It's just two people maintaining their opinions and just feeling self-righteous when they can like get in some sort of zinger over the other person. And then that's it. We don't gain any like real knowledge or wisdom. We don't work together on anything. God forbid. You got the libtards on one side. You got those evil Republicans on the other. What do we think is going to come of this? It's just, it's sad.
No, and it as you said, I mean, it seems as like all by design.
Yeah, I know.
Because I don't think there's always been, political divides and whatnot, but this has now gone beyond that to it again. I mean, a lot of it I think goes to the sort of the prevalence or the desire to have everything be based around identity. Everything is identity politics now. And that, to an extreme where it's like if one person likes the new, Ghostbusters with an all-female cast, they are evil and they must be destroyed. And anybody who hated the new, Ghostbusters is some evil woman-hating misogynist, that must be strung up in the public square. Like,
you can't just say it was a shitty movie and leave it at that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. It just wasn't a good movie. Yeah. But no, that's not allowed. And that's like sort of like a silly example, but it's scary that it's come to that. And again, because in that there is that sort of hidden or implicit thing that this is true though. It is truly a bad movie. You truly hate women if you don't like it.
Yeah, there's this ideological thing and all these like philosophical and political things heaped up on top of just what is essentially just another dumb comedy movie. And it has to be that way. Everything has to be that. Everything takes on this air of superiority. It's like, now really? I mean, there's a time and place for discussing important things, and I love, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a deep conversation, but I just don't think that's what we're having here. It's like a facsimile of that, and everybody thinks that they're, I don't know, everybody really feels self-righteous and as if that some sort of good is coming out of this. I just see division. Like you're saying, it's just to divide and conquer.
Well, and then I'm also sort of sat here thinking, and this sounds so kind of, I don't know, like, Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, kind of liberal, like, the truth matters and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but not really to you guys, because it's a comedy show. Like, get over yourself. But that being said, it does kind of matter in reality. And I know that sounds so kind of like cheesy and CNN or whatever, but I mean, it really is like now sort of like progressed to that when you know that like Trump is lying. Right. And he knows he's lying, and his followers and worshipers know he's lying, but they don't really care anymore. Like, and that's what's so funny is that they're so obsessed with the truth, and being righteous and being right, and everything is a secret cabal against him, and it's all about, again, uncovering the true nature of the deep state, which only consists of Democrats, pedophiles, and the CIA. But when presented with truth or something that they can't really deny or get around, it doesn't matter anymore. No. And that to me is like a shocking kind of development, because then it's sort of like, where does it go from there? And not just in like a political or geopolitical sense, but with anything, I mean, we just sort of lose faith in everything at that point. And I don't know, it's almost just like, nothing is true or real anymore.
Well, it doesn't matter what's true or real. It just only matters what you believe. And then it's all about just putting up this facade of that's truth. Like, we are on the right side. We know what we're doing. And just don't pay attention to like the little problems that come up. Like, Donald Trump lies. Just ignore it. I mean, because, he's righteous. I can't wait to hear the story of how it was that Donald Trump took out 101-year-old David Rockefeller yesterday. I'm sure he was the guy who did it.
Yeah.
There's some like secret way that he went about taking out David Rockefeller.
Yes. From Mar-a-Lago.
The fact that he was just like super old and died, that's not true. It was actually Trump that somehow did it. So I'm looking forward to that story. But I mean, that's what it is. And if we're talking about alt media, which we are now, and the state of that, it's horrifying, and it's absolutely the worst that it has ever been. But in that, I think I've come around a bit on this because it's so like demoralizing and depressing, but at the same time, it's also really good. I've been thinking about this a lot, in that it's clear to see for anybody who still has their mind intact, is able to think and work things out for themselves, has that free thought, that capacity still. It's clear what's going on. That so many of these alt media types are just charlatans, and they'll say anything to be popular and to get the big views. And it's funny because what gets the most attention is just the most bombastic, loud stuff that isn't true. It just incites a lot of anger and attention and a lot of this generic debate again, in that they're the first to take sides. They're like, we're on the right wing, and we're fighting all those social justice warrior weenies that, and they'll go on about how they're wusses and they're effeminate or whatever, they'll go on and on all day and try to act all tough. But when it comes down to it, they're just playing the right versus left dialectic that they said was the problem to begin with, right? So all these things that they told us were these problems, they're now just, they are like the epitome of inciting that sort of thing. And that's what they're doing. So I say this is good because we can see who's who and what's what. And people are really showing their true colors at this point in time, I do believe. So this is actually, there's a lot of opportunity now, I'm feeling, to actually just be, if you have integrity, I think that's going to say a lot down the road. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, and I mean it's pathetic that we're even having to have that kind of, like if anyone out there with integrity, you're gonna do okay. But
well, there's so many people pretending to have integrity, and that's what that's what these guys are. They're the false version, a false prophets of integrity, and they'll say that they have it all day, but that means nothing.
Oh yeah, well the people screaming the loudest about that are always the people that have nothing. I mean, if you really had integrity, you wouldn't have to tell everybody that you did. Yeah. But it's funny. I do agree with you a lot, and I think just in a general sense, I mean, this is at least showing to the public, the mass media. I mean, these guys are idiots. I mean, they really will say absolutely anything, and we do live in a society now where everyone is a fact checker. The way that the internet has developed, it's very like people are getting. Sean Spicer says something, and 10 seconds later, he's being corrected by 20,000 people. Yeah. Like any of this thing, Donald Trump does this, or Rex Tillerson says that. They're all, these sort of lies are not lasting much more than, a few hours. I mean, that's how fast the news cycle has become. But at the same time, and that's great, and it's good in illustrating, that these are just chumps. They're not even good at this, at lying. But at the same time, there's this, like, people just don't care. Or they only care in that it's, well, we're against that guy, so good, it's great that we're finding him catching him in a lie here. So I don't know. I hope that it kind of like broadens out beyond, blue team, red team.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm still shocked that people are actually like buying what Trump is selling.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's shitting in your mouth and telling you it's a sundae. Okay? Nothing he's saying is like tangible at all. None of it is real. Everything is a joke with him. I'm beginning to think that was his whole purpose. Was to, bring about the sort of, destruction of truth and integrity. Well,
first of all, I don't think he ever wanted to be president to begin with. I still don't think he wants to be at all. But his name is interesting. Adam and I have talked about this on Themes and Memes a bit, and Adam is always pointing out the name Trump, like the Trump card, right? There's a cult significance in that. You're talking about the major Trumps of the tarot. Well, those are the ones who are the serious, hard-hitting archetypes that have all sorts of serious meaning, and there's definitely aspects of the fool in Trump, right? And some of the destructive qualities of the fool.
King for a day.
Yeah, king for a day, exactly. And that's another thing too. Who actually believes that Trump is the guy in charge? And again, if we're talking about alt media, we ought to know better, right? We know that the figurehead isn't the guy with the power. He's not the one calling the shots. He's just the public face of a larger organization. And Trump, absolutely, if ever that was true, it certainly was true with Trump. That's how he ran his entire business to begin with. He ran on this political platform of, I'm a great businessman. Like, well, yeah, what does that mean? You just employ a bunch of people to do all the work for you, and then you go on TV, plastering your face everywhere, and criticizing the contestants on The Apprentice,
and driving businesses into the ground.
Yeah.
Destroying some of these things. The big one, the AFL, the American Football League.
Oh yeah, that's
Look that up. He screwed that over. It would have been. Any sports fans out there that like football, you would have been able to watch football virtually year round. Okay, and Donald Trump screwed that up. All right.
Yeah.
So
I know how important that is for my mother-in-law, for instance.
Exactly. I know tons of people that would be just, they wouldn't be depressed when football season ended, and it's never going to happen now because of him. But it's funny too. That's what's so odd is that I'm seeing this sort of pattern where now suddenly everyone's going to talk about the deep state, and I know I've kind of been going on about it on the show the past couple of weeks, but now it's like front and center, right? And now we're so aware of it, and we're seeing that it's in control of everything, and it's like, right, no shit. Of course it is. Ultimately, these sort of not the deep state that they think it is. But all these things, and it's like, and of course, and we're seeing more and more every day, he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, half the time he's in Mar-a-Lago. How can he be that, in tune with what's going on in Washington? His own press secretary can't get anything right. Other people are saying, Rex Tillerson is making, rookie mistakes as the Secretary of State. He's saying things, to the Chinese that he shouldn't be saying, and then he's saying it's something different to the Japanese, and then they're all pissed about what's going on. It's like, it is sort of like the veil has been lifted, and you can just see that, when push comes to shove, the real questions of the day are always going to be carried out by somebody else. But what's funny is that Trump is sort of illustrating this through his incompetence, yet of course that is being morphed or manipulated by people into, no, this is his strength. He's fighting against these powers, He's up against them. That's why they're going so hard after him. He's a complete fucking moron, okay, who could barely string a couple sentences together. It's no surprise he can't run a country. Not that the president ever even did, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Again, I don't know. It just sort of, I'm just sort of thinking back on what we were talking about, like in the first hour. That's almost like some sort of like occult thing, or some, where Trump is, we're being presented with one truth, that is Trump against the world or whatever, or that he's an idiot, through that, if you look really carefully, you can see, no, this is really how the world works. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if this is sort of like how it works for a lot of presidents. We just don't know about it because they don't tweet about it all the time.
Yeah. What's funny, so many people say that the reason he won was because of Twitter, right? Mm. Twitter and social media and 4chan and all this stuff, which are all the epitome of what we're talking about with what's wrong with people now, and having like these fierce debates that are totally devoid of any true meaningful content. They're just debates to have for debate's sake and for fighting's sake, and for hate's sake, for hating other people that you shouldn't. They're just your peers, they're your fellow citizens, they're your neighbors, or even your family members. You're fighting over these stupid issues that don't mean anything. But yeah, it's all about feeling good, and Trump epitomized it again. He's just like telling jokes the whole time he's campaigning, and he's like zinging people and like doing all these personal pot shots on his running mates or on the people running against him. So yeah, it's all there for you to see what the problem is. The problem is us. The problem is all of us unable to just work our stuff out. We're we're immature. We're not able to sit and think about things, and have a conversation, a mature conversation where two people talk, have differing opinions, and come away respecting what the other person had to say, first of all, but also gaining something out of the conversation because you learned something you hadn't thought of before. Because the person you're talking to thinks a different way than you. Or everything's about encouraging people to get further nestled into their little holes of belief, whatever their particular belief is. Well, yeah, that's fine. The more extreme, the better. Everybody's being made into an extremist, you see. And in comes the alt media, like the the purveyor of extremist ideologies at its worst. I don't think it has to be that, but at very often it is. It's like, the whole government's corrupt, it's evil, and we got to take down the system. Just generic thoughts like this.
Slogans. They're just
slogans.
Empty slogans.
Yeah. If you're thinking about this information generically, then it's the most destructive thing ever. And when you see the climate of the way that people are thinking, it gets me to think like, well, is this all media thing? Is this a weapon? Is this a weapon? Can it be weaponized? Is the Trump card being played to use that weapon against the people even more than ever, divide the people more than ever, get them more and more hugging on to extremist ideologies on the left, on the right, either side, and get both sides 50-50. That way you get equal sides taking each other out. And is that what's going on? Is the conspiracy the conspiracy?
Right, yeah. Once again, all the three-letter news agencies are a flutter about Russia, and I was just saying before we went on the air to Aaron, InfoWars and Breitbart are being investigated as some sort of conduit for Russian bots to, propagate fake news or whatever the sort of fakakta story that they've come up with. And I've gone back and forth on this, and part of me does wonder, well, chaos in America is good for Trump. It's good for Putin, rather. So maybe that's why he supports some of the sort of more out there far right characters like Marie Le Pen is bad for France in terms of it'll create chaos, which is good for Putin because but now I'm almost kind of past that and what is Putin even getting out of this? I mean, I don't think all that much. I mean, I guess we're not paying attention to what he may or may not be doing. Apparently all world events and armed conflicts around the globe are just sort of irrelevant now because it's really just but what's he going to do next? How are we going to zing him? That's what he keeps saying. But it's almost gone past that. And I was just sort of thinking when you were talking there, again, maybe that's that's the conspiracy or something that it isn't even about the Russians, that this is really about dividing us to a scary level where, I don't know, maybe I don't want to say some sort of strong man comes in because I don't think that's quite, I don't think we're there yet. And I think that's sort of alarmist and probably wouldn't happen. But, I don't know, people are becoming so sort of stuck in these little tiny boxes that they're not going to leave that, it's if Trump was allowed, God only knows what's going to come next.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the point. I don't know. But I almost sort of see the Russia thing as they don't really, if they had any doing in this, they're not, it was small, but it was enough that it just sort of all unwrapped. I think that a lot of this is we've been building to this and it just happened to unravel right now.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the point.
Yeah.
To push us into this sort of direction. Where ultimately, because now it is who knows what the CIA is doing?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to
is
gauge
anybody
whether,
paying attention?
Yeah, it's hard for me to gauge whether they truly hate Trump or whether they're just going to keep him going to use him for their own ends. I have no idea when it comes to that. Do you have any ideas on that one?
I don't know. I think they're obviously fine with him, or else he probably wouldn't have been elected.
Yeah.
But I think the Russia thing pisses them off.
Yeah.
Hence why they've been a little bit more upfront about, linking him to Russia. But they had to have known about that previously. A lot of these, the other thing too is, are these ties I don't know if they necessarily go up to the Kremlin. Trump is definitely involved with Russian gangsters, which are, of course, connected to the Kremlin in a lot of ways. But that, I mean, again, Trump is a member of the deep state. He just always has operated in the sort of overtly illegal side of it. So the mafia, Russian gangsters, you know, those sorts of people, bankers, or the shady ones.
So the left-hand path. Now he's got to work his way into the right hand and figure out how to operate there.
But I almost feel like I don't know. I don't know if every time there's, you know, some Russian guy that knows Donald Trump, I don't know if that's like a smoking gun that he's, you know, a Manchurian candidate. So I don't know. Maybe this is, maybe it would make sense to me that the CIA is playing a much longer game, and this could possibly be more about some conflict we're not even aware of, okay?
Yes.
Some move on the chessboard that hasn't been made yet that will involve Russia, probably in the Middle East or Central Asia, maybe even. And this is really more about just the constant fomenting that Russia's evil.
Yes.
Because right now, I mean, I don't see them doing anything all that evil. Okay? I mean, okay, they helped Trump get elected, but like, first off, I don't even buy that because it's like, what? We needed Putin to make America racist?
Yeah.
Like,
I know.
These people were willing to vote for him. Come on. Like, don't you don't need Russians for people to vote stupidly. So I don't know. Maybe this is just more about, again, creating that whole atmosphere, getting people primed and ready. I don't know. What do you think of that, Aaron?
Well, I definitely enjoy the fact that the second day of his presidency, he went to the CIA headquarters and he gave a speech in front of the Wall of Stars, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was something, to say the least.
Oh, and that was a secret message, though, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So just more encoded stuff to overlay on top of the stupidity with which we're supposed to consume and just leave things at that level. But yeah, now more than ever, we can't do that. We need to have a real understanding of what's going on. Trump, the thing with the Trump administration that has always worried me when he was running is, you know, his calls to strength. And I feel like, you know, you're talking about the strongman leader. I feel that Trump wishes that he was. You know, I don't know that he is, but he would like to be that. He's always saying, you know, like, I'm all strong. These people in government are weak. We got to get rid of them. It's all about strength, weakness. We got to be strong leadership. We have to win, you know, this winning nonsense stuff. and all of his, just hinting at, what he would do domestically to crack down and take away civil liberties. Actually, he's done this time and time again. Like, there's been so much stuff. It was like, what was that? Like the stop and frisk thing? Wasn't that what he?
You want to do a national stop and frisk? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's great. It works. We need it. It's like, what in the world? Like, this is the truther candidate?
Yeah, I know.
You know,
the
people that are concerned about. They're concerned about martial law happening, and then they're supporting this guy. It's like, yeah, let's just institutionalize it so it's every day this is what you do. And that, again, that's just these things that boggle your mind, where so many pundits for over the years they've been screaming, tyranny's coming, martial law. And now they're cheerleading for it. It's like they want that. And they're terrified of the Muslim terrorists too. So this, you know, those big scary Muslim terrorists that, you know, in the beginning it was all about, hey, well, yeah, where'd the Muslim terrorists come from? Who funded them? Like, what's their deal? They just didn't appear out of nowhere. The truth movement as a whole was doing a good job, like, trying to get answers for that. But now somehow it's gone a complete 180 in that, oh, yeah, you know, Islamic terror is just this huge evil, and we're just going to keep it at that. We're just going to call all these Muslim terrorists evil and not go any further than that and say that that's a problem and we need a big, strong leader to protect us. And that, to me, I mean, from just looking at that alone makes me really want – I mean, that's like one of the big things in all of this going on with the weirdness with alt media and with Trump that I've really had like a lot of suspicions. I'm like, okay, where do they want to go with this one? You know, what's the end game here? I don't know.
Well, and it's just funny too that it's the quote truth movement.
Yeah.
We've just been talking about this, the truth. It's all about the truth. This is true. And this movement that is supposed to be, I don't know, the arbiters of what's true are just completely have their eyes closed to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they've probably secretly, a lot of them always wanted a strong man. It's like, I was just talking about this with Tom. All of these right-wing Nazis out there now, everyone is suddenly it's okay, Hitler was fine. The Nazis were good, really, because they were against the globalists and the Jews and the West, which is really, more evil. And again, it always turns out to that, like, the lesser of two evils. The people that have been telling us that that's evil are like, well, yeah, but the Nazis were like just evil enough, so it's okay. And, these are the people that, like, but they just sort of skip over that whole chapter where the CIA started hiring every Nazi they possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like, okay, so Hitler was good, these Nazis were okay, so all the Nazis that went to work for the West, which is evil, and Jewish and globalist and this, what are they? They were the bad Nazis? They were the bad Nazi collaborators?
Yeah.
They've just become so devoid of reality at this point. I'll throw this to you, Aaron, because you are the resident expert on the show on the occult and magic and whatnot. But it's like, has some sort of like spell been cast on all of us? I know that sounds a little, Wiccan and out there, but it's almost like, just like after Inauguration Day, there was this miasma, this malaise amongst everybody here in New York. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. And that still hasn't, like, I don't know, that hasn't changed all that much. Are people just sort of walking around in this daze?
Well, I think so. When it comes to the magic spell, it's hard. I can't point to like any one thing, and certainly not as evidence of like, yes, the spell was cast here. It was when Trump's inauguration day, and he did this handshake or he did that. I can't do that. But just generally speaking, yeah, there's this because what the occult is so much about is the mind, and the mind's creative power over the physical world that surrounds it. The brain is a physical thing, but the mind is something transcendent. Spirit is transcendent. And at the same time, that ethereal sort of gray matter, right? Gray matter's in your head. That gray thing that isn't there, you can't touch it. It's able to manipulate the world all around us. And that's just the basics of occult practice, all sorts of esoteric things. That's what it's all about, is mind over matter. And it's true. The question asked now is, what happens when everybody has lost their mind? Because that's the status quo now, is nobody has a mind to speak of. Everybody's out of their wits. Right? Nobody's thinking things through. We're not. We're in a state of panic. And I noticed this, I guess this ties in and maybe is the clue to the magic spell, is when, all the time with Trump, and especially after he got elected, there was a hysteria that took over everybody for or against Trump. A hysteria was just instantly engaged, where either you were hysterically worried about how he came in and the world is all going to end. We're going to die. He's a dictator. He is Hitler. The people against Trump were just in utter hysterics about that. They're like, no. And then on the other side, you got his supporters like hysterically just cheering him on and being like, yes, finally the globalists are going down, or we're going to change things. So they're equally hysterical, both sides. And it's all the while, we have this vision of the world changing, and that all these things are going to change somehow. But we're never realizing that we're the agents of change, and we all have our own minds. And when we lose our minds, well, yeah, the world is going to go to hell. because we're falling into this this psychological trauma, this overarching psychological trauma that is getting a hold of everybody, and we're letting that get the best of us. And I say we don't have to. We don't have to let it get the best of us. Obviously, it's going to affect everybody somehow, and this has certainly affected me and anybody else. But you got to be able to put it in perspective and, look further out and, big picture. Even the entire Earth is pretty tiny when you look at things, and, take a breath. It's going to be okay. So let's think about what it is that we're debating about. Like, if I'm kind of convinced if people were able to like step back from themselves and see what it is that they're engaged in and getting all upset about, they would realize how silly it was. So I think that's just what's lost, and it's right there for us to gain back. It's always there, but the minute we're very caught up in the moment, we're caught up in the moment and the silly lies about what the moment is. See, we're not seeing the real truth. We're just like caught up in our own lies of our own creation.
Right. No, and I mean, again, I'm just sort of thinking back to the John verse, the truth will set you free. Yeah. But I mean, of course, I think it's scary. People, that's what's so odd about this, or so ironic, is that people are like truly terrified that the world is about to end any moment. On both sides. Yeah. Either Trump is going to blow it up, or I don't know, the CIA is going to blow it up to kill Trump, and, it doesn't matter. Like, there's always some sort of evil out there. Everyone's so paranoid and afraid. Yet, I think if they took a step back, and they could see that that's not really the truth of it. And that it's really, it's scarier that you're sort of stuck in these little tiny mindsets where you think that's going to happen, because that's not really going, that not anytime soon, knock on wood, but I don't think so. But again, I think it's the truth of like confronting those sort of like larger is too scary. So they'd rather just sort of be stuck and just kind of there.
So small crises can expand into huge catastrophes, you see? So, minor little, even terrorist events could shock the world into doing I don't know what, some sort of horrible reaction because everybody's such on edge, like, terrorists, we gotta, launch the nukes, or, like some sort of extreme reaction.
And they've goaded us into that direction.
Yeah,
to a point now where, like, even if something really bad happened, Rachel Maddow's not going to say any, they're still, they're still going to be locking up people, yes. They will all fall in line. I mean, that's the really scary sort of thing, is that,
it'll be post September 11 all over again.
Exactly.
Like, you better fall into line and salute the flag and say you're against a terrorist, because if you're not, you're with them. You're right. The old, George W. Bush line, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. I mean, that mindset is, we are primed to just jump right back into that silly stupidity. And it's ironic that the truth pundits are going to be the first ones to put you there. They're like, yeah, either with us or you're with the terrorists. I could see Alex Jones saying that.
1,000%. Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. And it's funny too. You were right in making the point that they've sort of, we're no longer looking. They've convinced us that, well, Al-Qaeda and these sort of terrorist gangs, they're not really part of the CIA anymore. They're just this sort of amorphous, evil Muslim entity that must be stopped at all costs. Again, it's like all of that truth, all that work that we did is just gone. We're not free from that anymore. And of course, we don't have enough time to get into this, but I was just saying, this also seems like the sort of prime real estate or for the transhumanists to, they've already got Peter Thiel sort of in the White House, and Elon Musk just is, he's going to be on Mars anytime now. And, this seems very much like that sort of like some other kind of catastrophe, and the transhumanists well, we've got an answer for that. Yes. I don't know if you saw this, but what's it, Zoltan Isvan?
Running.
Yeah, he's running for governor, right? In California, your home state.
Oh, yeah. It has to be California.
As a libertarian, of course.
Yeah.
It's that weird, like, Peter Thiel, transhumanist, libertarian, alliance or whatever.
Well, I've always liked to call Trump's transition team his Age of Transitions team.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. The group he has there.
No, absolutely. And it is like an age of transitions with him, because it's like everyone is either defense contractor or a Wall Street banker or a transhumanist, or some amalgamation of all three. And it is like a sort of new, it is like a new age, this transitional.
What was odd, something odd too, is when Trump first came in, he was criticizing Boeing for having these contracts for something that were just ludicrous, that the dollar amount had to come down. So he came in appearing to fight the military-industrial complex, but then little time goes on, you see he's just totally in bed with them. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
I didn't.
Right, you're not going after Boeing, but you're asking Eric Prince, what is what's the best advice for this? I mean,
yeah.
Oh, of course. Well, again, too, I mean, it's like that, he's telling it like it is, he's telling you the hard truth, and in reality, it's all a joke.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's sort of like the theme for the second hour of this, of the show here is,
it's all about, it's all about appearances. Trump is all appearance and nothing less. It's the epitome of shallowness. It's like he appears to be anti-establishment, against the intelligence agencies, against the military-industrial complex, against whatever else you think he's against, but he's right there with them. He's actually their guy. And Silicon Valley, oh dear Lord, that bunch of nut jobs, they're his buddies.
Oh yeah. No, I know. They're all bending over backwards to try and please him.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know. I mean, that should be the real fear, of course. I mean, the second that Peter Thiel ingratiated himself with Trump, I was like, this is evil. Like, this is really bad. Like, we should all be truly terrified at this. I mean, Peter Thiel is the deep state, or definitely represents a figure in the deep state. And, I mean, that guy has got more money than you could ever imagine. And influence too. Aaron, quickly, before we completely run out of time, where can people go to listen to all of your work, maybe get a copy of your book, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, I still have my book, Revolve, Man's Scientific Rise to Godhood. I'm running out of paperback copies, so if you care to have one, I think I have like 4 copies left, and once they're gone, I don't think I'm going to print any more, so it'll be ebook copies only on that. It's at theageoftransitions.com, where you can also listen to my podcast. I want to put out some more material. I'm just podcasting, generally speaking, with Transresistor Radio. I like to keep it at that. So I'm going to keep it going with that for now, and with an eye on doing bigger projects. I'm not sure what yet, but I'll always be doing the podcast. So you can count on that at theageoftransitions.com. And I would also ask people to check out Themes and Memes at tmpodcast.com. Subscribe to that podcast, and also Uncle the Podcast at unclethepodcast.com, because in a world that's insane, with a bunch of crazy people that won't admit they're crazy, I just like to be plain insane and admit that that's what I am. Me and Uncle are just wackos, and being wackos to be silly and be honest about it. And it's fun. It's fun to let loose and have a good time, and just escape the mundane life that Uncle and I have to live. It's great therapy for that.
Excellent. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all for listening to this episode. I will be back next week, and until then, I'll talk to you very soon.
news and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
And I hope people support American Freedom Radio. And I hope people vote with their dollars and really understand the value of having American Freedom Radio. Because that's my family. If you love me at all, Jack Blood, support American Freedom Radio. Like, my family has literally disowned me. American Freedom Radio, Danny and Don and those guys, those are my actual family. So please support these guys, because they have all the technology, they have all these great things that they're going to do, but obviously they can't do it all by themselves. So not only would I like to see you support them, I'd like to see you retweet them and repost them and really get involved and get on the bandwagon, so to speak, on doing that do-it-yourself promotion, because they're a do-it-yourself radio network, and we just need that so much.